Yes, guys, welcome to another pre-week analysis. As per usual, we're going to start on the dollar index, DXY, and then we'll move across to GBPUSD and EURUSD, and also get a view on gold and where that could be going. So, looking at DXY on the weekly time frame, just to start out, last week we had a very, very, very big sell-off, and that was essentially giving us the rebalance and the push towards this order block in here from back at the start of June. And you can see we closed well inside that. We closed very, very bearish, and essentially bias remains. And as was of that week, we are remaining bearish from here without, until we get indication otherwise. We've closed below this area that was previously support, and now we're potentially going to get a retest of that area. And see where we go from there, essentially. So on a weekly base, what we can expect next week is a rebalance of the previous week's expansion, and then maybe the following week we can see a push lower. Okay, so when it comes to weekly profile, that is essentially what we're going to look for on Monday, Tuesday, retracement into the rebalance, 50% area, which is the rebalance of a swing, and then we're looking for confirmation to then short and follow that lower. Bias will remain sell side until proven otherwise, as I mentioned. So if we do, not get the rebalance and we get structure essentially printing down, then that's terrible. Then we can continue to look for shorts as we want to, for longs essentially on the pairs we'll be trading, being Euro USD and GU. But we'll essentially continue to see DXY pushing down until we start to get that retracement on the mid time frames. Okay, so on a daily, what does this look like? So as you can see, DXY was holding this fair value gap all of the last few weeks, essentially. Came in, rejected, pushed below, failed to push lower, and then pushed higher, creating that the run on these highs. Before we had FOMC, I believe it was, and we just sold off completely. Okay, so that is essentially where we were at off the back of FOMC, and we've come to feel this extreme demand. Okay, so we've come into this order block being the last low before the push higher, breaking structure right here. So this is our last kind of region of interest where we could potentially see a reaction. We could see this push, for example, from here into a rebalance of the previous week's swing. And that also aligns really nicely with this fair value gap. Okay, so that being the 50% of that swing, we would see something into this region. Okay, that would be our confirmed rebalance, where we would then want to see what price wants to do going forwards. So daily time frame wise, in terms of structure, this was a strong high, we had a strong low, and then a push all the way up, creating another strong high up here. Okay, so anything between this low and this high relative to the daily chart is essentially, well, potentially a pullback into extreme supply, areas of supply or demand, sorry, to then push higher potentially. Okay, but we have seen a very, very strong sell-off where we had a low resistance kind of liquidity building up, or lower volume relative to recent pushes. And now we had a big sell-off. Okay, so sellers are very much in control on the daily chart in that aspect. Okay, so what we want to see from this region is essentially 4-hour and hourly confirmation to go long, or to indicate that buyers are stepping in from this region. We'll remove that. Otherwise, we're going to continue looking short. Okay, so this being an area of interest, a daily order block essentially. Okay, so I'll mark that out with this. We can say daily order block. We either need 4-hourly confirmation breaking structure in here and pushing up to indicate potential buyers. This would be a structural point because we had multiple candles pushing up, closed above this last bearish candle, creating a new low. And then if we break this high, then it's a potential indication of price switching its direction. Okay, so that's where we would see price ultimately then go bullish. potentially. We don't want to be certain on anything, but we can use these things in our favor. Okay, so that is what a bullish scenario from the daily order block could look like. However, what is more probable, given all of this momentum, we may see a small pullback, but more likely is that we get a run on this order block before any other sort of confirmation, in my opinion. Okay, that is relatively speculative. I'm not going to bet just off of that, but based on my experience, based on what I see in the market when we're expanding like this on a daily, it's going to be quite hard for price to just completely switch unless something fundamental shifts essentially, and I don't see that happening as of yet. What we could see and what would make sense, given kind of geopolitical context, things get worse in the Middle East. Things essentially escalate, wars get worse, or relative along that timeline, or along that kind of line of scenarios, it would drive DXY up. Okay, so as people look to put their money or take their money out of risky assets, or out of things like crypto, for example, and into things like the dollar, which are seen as potential safe havens, then that drives the value of the DXY up. So that would be the potential scenario where things get worse. We may get a run on these lows and a push higher when the context shifts to a more what's the word, uneasy or uncertain geopolitical environment. Okay, more than it already is potentially. So that's DXY on the 4 hourly. On the hourly, you can see that we did get a pullback. We held this hourly fair value gap, and the 4 hourly fair value gap being this one in here. So we respected that, and then we pushed lower. Okay, we have not closed inside of this order block as of yet. So as I was mentioning, we could get kind of hesitation and then a push away, or we could get price completely disrespect, in which we would just remain bearish and look to get in on a pullback and continue trading that bias. Okay, so what does this look like on Euro USD? Again, starting on a blank chart for the week. Euro USD is coming to a really nice kind of area. We are inside this fair value gap, of which we'll look to potentially fill and come into the extreme supply. Okay, so this order block in here, we would potentially get a sweep of the previous week high, which would be in here. We can label that previous week high, EWH. And then we could either see two things. Okay, very simply, we could either see a push away, which would align with this daily structure, or we could get a push above and just a continuation. Okay, and that would provide us opportunities to continue going long on Euro USD, and it would align with the dollar's current bearish momentum. As I was just saying on DXY, if things get worse in the Middle East, or if another conflict emerges, or anything that entices or encapsulates uncertainty in the market, or fear, especially fear, we're going to see things like Euro and GU dump as DXY rallies, simply because, again, the dollar is seen as a safe haven. Okay, and yeah, that would just potentially align quite nicely with the technical side, which is this bearish point of interest. But we'd wait for that fundamental news to come around first. We're not going to simply just trade off that. We're going to try and be as preserved or as reserved as possible. When we think about what this could look on a daily as well, we have got this area of accumulation. When we think of accumulation, manipulation, distribution models, this could then be the manipulation phase, potentially coming into an area of premium to allow price to then distribute potentially, and this is a forecasting box right here, to then distribute lower. Okay, so that would align really nicely with this. That's just something to have in the back of your mind. As of currently, we are just rallying on a 4 hour. Okay, so we are just creating higher highs and higher lows, as you can see in here, as we broke structure here. we can only expect, based on what price is giving us, a new high up here, okay? Unless we break this low, we are going to remain bullish on the 4-hourly. Okay, and as you can see, it reacted out of this order block at that time as well really nicely. So right now we are following order flow quite nicely. And as I said, until we break this 4-hourly low, or we make new structural highs and then break structural lows, we're going to remain bullish on Euro USD, okay? Hourly again, just for reference on what we look like. You can see price, low resistance liquidity build up, a push lower, a manipulation of these lows in here. Orders create transitioning from stop losses into market orders, pushing price higher. We now have a run and a fail to close above these highs. Okay, that's one indication of potential sellers stepping into the market. But we do have structural kind of key liquidity being previous week high right here. Okay, so just conscious of that as well. Now, just to cover what it looks like in terms of the potential forecast, remaining bullish on Euro USD. An area of interest here that we can trade towards with our bullish bias. Okay, so we're looking to trade towards this this order block, filling this fair value gap. So if I want to mark that out as a liquidity pool, I can just do it like this. And we have only this much remaining. Oh, so we only have this much remaining. Okay, so this is from the wick high just there. We're looking to fill that. In terms of TPs, you could target in there if we get opportunity to then go long on Euro USD. And then that could be we then wait for further confirmation of if we're going to trade higher or if we start to trade away from this daily point of interest. Okay, nice. So GBP USD, what are we looking like? I have not cleared this chart, so I'll leave it like this actually. As we can see on GBP USD, last week we came into an area of interest. We swept internal liquidity, being this trend line liquidity built up here, tapped into and filled completely this inefficiency, which was the last inefficiency in this bullish swing, making this entire swing completely balanced and efficient. As we came into there, we then got a very strong rejection away, a break of structure, as you can see in here. Obviously the daily, we had a candlestick pattern reversal. On the 4-hourly chart, this was a very clean break of structure. As you can see here, we marked out previously that if we get a break above these highs, it would be bullish on the hourly and on the 4-hourly. And we did get a break with this candle close as of FOMC, and then we continued to just rally, okay? We then came into a potential area of interest and just flushed through it. Well, we hesitated and then we pushed higher, so this is no longer a relevant area. And we did create, we expanded, so we created fair value gaps as we pushed higher as well. Okay, so we still have some gaps in there between this wick and this wick here. So very, very big bullish expansion from that particular area. Okay, I can pull this to the side. In terms of buy side liquidity, we remain to have these highs untapped, so we can continue to target these highs. Weekly looks disgusting. I'm going to leave that. And then hourly, as you can see, we are just absolutely rallying. On the hourly, delete that. GU has closed above these highs made from Thursday. However, Friday for EURUSD, they did not close. So it was wick rejection. So potentially more sellers stepping in on EURUSD. Early sellers potentially yet to be seen. Obviously, we have the previous week high, which we'll mark out as a area of interest to see price run on or target towards, given that we are still bullish in terms of our bias. And in terms of points of interest on the hourly, it was absolutely plenty. So we have order blocks, fair value gaps, plenty of inefficiencies based on how expansive this move was. So when we get big expansions, we can also expect big retracements. Okay, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week coming could be a big retracement week. We never know. for the hourly to then shift and for us to potentially look for shorts, this is the lowest point, okay, on the hourly. That is, the lowest strong structural point where we could then have an invalidation of longs, okay? So we can put this as our strong low. And the reason it's a strong low is because, we had swept internal liquidity, we had tapped into this bullish fair value gap, okay? So a region of interest in a region of discount as well. So we know that this was we'd come all the way into past 50%. And then we had made new highs, okay? So we broke this high in here and we created a new higher high, okay? So this is a strong low because it created a higher high. Comprendo? So if we break this low and close below this low especially, we could then trade towards deeper kind of points of interest within this higher time frame swing. And then essentially when we get to those regions, we'd look to essentially get for extra confirmation to either continue bearish, or we're waiting for confirmation that price is going to be trading away from them. Okay, so more in the line with the daily and the 4-hourly swing potentially. Okay, so until then we are remaining bullish. However, if we do get a break of this strong low, then we could see some hesitation here. We're going to wait for extra confirmation because we could then see price come all the way to the deep kind of the demand, the extreme demand, before we then get a push higher potentially. Okay, so we're just weighing up our options, weighing up what could happen. Similarly, we could just have price come into this hourly order block and then push to the extreme. Okay, because we are still bullish at the end of the day. So this is also an area of interest. So multiple options. We've got 3 key areas that we could see reversals from. Okay, so we have the first hourly order block. We have an untapped hourly and I believe a 4-hourly, no, just an hourly in here as well. And then we have the extreme inefficiency all the way, probably around the 79 to 80% retracement level. Okay, maybe even deeper than that. Fib on the 79. So we could come all the way back and then push on, but we are going to wait for hourly confirmation when that happens. Okay, so I will leave that as premium discount just for now. One kind of, I suppose not negative, but relative to higher time frame swing, this is obviously going to, this point of interest is inside the discount of this hourly swing, because this is the hourly low to the hourly high. However, relative to the 4-hour and the daily, this would be in the, or considered to be in the premium still. Okay, so just something to bear in mind if we are looking for swing positions. I personally aren't, but if you are, just bear in mind that this could be seen as premium, and therefore doesn't really align with the buy low, sell high kind of mantra. So just one to be aware of. So that is what we're looking like on GU. And just to finish up on gold, let's go clean chart. Let's just remove all of this. Gold for the last few weeks has been stalling quite aggressively after a big sell-off. So why did we sell off, and why might we be stalling? So essentially we rallied so aggressively on gold for such a long period of time, it almost got kind of parabolic. It was almost essentially like a crypto coin. This was more than just the true value of gold. This was people catching on a trend. This was people emotionally jumping into the opportunity of buying gold, very leveraged, highly leveraged positions, and not truly reflecting, the true value or the true price of gold. So when we then revert, or when we get to that peak and people start selling, we sell aggressively because the emotional buyers then become emotional sellers, and people look to secure on the profits that they made from all of this price action. Okay, so you see the tighter candles in here, the volume was more consistent, and then we just got parabolic exponential from this period, essentially from August last year. Okay, and we just absolutely rallied. So when we, like I was saying earlier, when we have very expansive moves, we also have big retracements. So if we draw our fib tool from here to here, you can see that we have now come into a relative area of discount. So from this low that then printed the highest high, we are now in a relative area of discount, okay? If you want to look at support and resistance kind of things as well, this area that previously found resistance and then pushed higher is where we're now, very evidently we've stalled at, and we're kind of failing to push away from here. On the daily, you can see that for a long time that has been evident as well. So again, you can see we had a big push, big retracement back, stall, and then a run higher. So in this area, that is essentially where gold is kind of hanging around at. When gold tends to do this is when we start to get typically a big push in either direction. So waiting for confirmation is always super important. Not masses of high quality opportunity on gold, I'll be really honest. When we're chopping like this, gold is typically nicer to trade with more confidence, at least when it is trending. And when we're short, when we're selling off essentially on gold, it's quite a hard one to essentially weigh high probabilities in your favor. So 4-hourly has been ranging as well for a very long time. Okay, so the last we had a low formed in here, a run on those lows, and then a push higher. Oops. Which at that point you could say, okay, from here we're bullish now. And by from here, I mean, okay, from this leg now we're bullish. We wait for a trace and we go higher potentially, but we did not get that. Okay, we failed to do that. We simply came lower. We stalled at these lows. We reacted to this fair bullish order block potentially. So this bearish order block where we create the last low and to push higher. We stopped and then we pushed higher. And we're like, okay, maybe we're going to create a high from here, but no, we failed again and we pushed lower. Okay, so it's just more and more and more evidence of indecision and uncertainty in the market. Where is gold a safe haven? Is gold not a safe haven? Am I still investing in it? What is the true value? So gold is really looking to price in at what its true value really is, okay? And it will come around. It's just a matter of when, okay? And I'm no expert on that, but reading price action, understanding how gold has behaved in the past, this is essentially what we're looking for price to do, okay? So what we may get when price accumulates, as we know the AMD model, is potentially a push lower to then fuel the push higher, okay? So that's when we look at things like AMD. So we understand this is all accumulation, a failure to push above highs and below lows, and we would mark that out potentially as accumulation. We'd look for a failure to go lower and then potentially confirmation to go higher, okay? That would be a really nice AMD model, kind of coming into reality, but it is very, very high time frame, okay? So just be conscious of that. For myself, trading on the daily day trading as such, I like to have narrative. I like to be aware of narrative, but don't let it ultimately take control of my trading, because I would end up I'd be never taking a trade relative to my strategy. So on the hourly, you can see very similar story. Okay, even if I just refresh the screen, price opened here. I know this is just my screen here, but price starts here, price ends here. Okay, so left to right, it has not really gone in any direction, really and truly. So recent price action just being very recent in the analysis. We had a break above these highs, and we can then say that we had a low, a higher high, a low. We ran higher, but we failed to close above these highs, okay? Now we're looking to sweep internal liquidity, potentially filling this inefficiency. So maybe we are remaining bullish on the hourly at the moment, but a fail to push and close above here is a bit of a red flag for myself, okay? So it's an indication that the buyers failed to continue pushing the price higher, and the sellers ultimately stepped in and reversed price from there, okay? So very choppy, something that I'm not looking to trade myself still, based on how kind of undecided direction is. But if you are on the lower time frames, you might get some opportunity. But for me, there's just not a lot really there going. I'll be honest. So I think I'll leave that there for gold. We'll just chuck back on the daily just to wrap up. If you do have any questions, leave them in the comments. I will get back to them. If you want to DM me on Instagram at c.trades, that is also fine. I'll do my best to answer your questions. If you want to get money off your prop firm challenges as well, I've recently partnered with ACG, so you can use code CEE for that and get yourself a nice discount there as well. Okay, but apart from that, hope you have a good rest of your Sunday. Hope you have a great week trading, and I will see you all at some point in the week, or I'll see you next week for Sunday analysis. Peace.